Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, where we discuss all of the news in the world of soccer. As always, my name is Ben Brown, back in the studio here on a Monday, talking all things soccer, football, however you want to name it. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter show as opposed to what we normally talk about, because I am on a little bit of a time cap here in the studio, so I'm going to be grinding through a lot of things as far as the second and third segments of the day. Quick scores, quick updates on tables, and then games to look forward to. But first off, we're talking about the AFCON. We're still talking about the AFCON. It's still going on. We're now at our semifinal stages. The tournament is progressing along really, really nicely. Because we are only here for 1 week, we have so much to update on because we miss a whole week's worth because there's games practically every single day. So I'm going to kind of jump ahead. We are in the semifinals, as I mentioned. Semifinal matchups are Burkina Faso against Egypt and Cameroon against Ghana. So some of the surprises was that Ivory Coast and Algeria, Ivory Coast being the defending champions, and then Algeria, one of the favorites, did not actually progress on to the quarterfinals. Both of them crashed out in their respective groups, which were very, very surprising to me. Those would have been two of my favorites. So now we're at Burkina Faso and Egypt. Egypt won against Morocco yesterday to advance to this semifinal. The Cameroon went to penalties to defeat Senegal. It was a 0-0 game, but they won 5-4 on penalties to advance to this game. Ghana with a couple of goals from the IUs to advance. And then Burkina Faso won 2-0. So now we have the semifinals, as I mentioned, Burkina Faso and Egypt. Egypt have won every single game in this tournament 1-0. They played 4 games, 1-0, 3 of them 0-0 the first game. Then you have Cameroon and Ghana in the end of their semifinal. I expect Egypt to beat Burkina Faso. Egypt have yet to concede a goal in this whole entire tournament. Mohamed Salah has been an absolute fantastic performer for them. He's got a goal and an assist. His goal coming in the third game against Ghana with an absolutely nasty, nasty free kick. And then you look at Burkina Faso on the other side, and their top guy is Prejuse Nakuluma. He has 2 goals and 1 assist in 4 games, so he's playing extremely well. That semifinal is on Wednesday. And then you look over to the other semifinal, Cameroon and Ghana. That will be played on Thursday. Andre Ayew, formerly of Swansea City and now of West Ham, he has 2 goals within 4 games. Jordan Ayew's also been playing well. And then you look at Cameroon, Benjamin Mukanjo. He has a goal and an assist for Cameroon, who have a really, really strong defense. They've been playing really well. I will say Ghana advances as well as Egypt. Honestly, I'm pulling for Egypt because of Mohamed El Neni and Arsenal. Of course, I am an Arsenal supporter, so I'm going to be pulling for them. But I do think Egypt will advance. Been really, really good, really solid at the back. Have not given up any goals so far in the tournament. And then I'll go with Ghana. They've been really, really consistent all tournament long. Really, really standout performers. And then that would match up Egypt and Ghana again. Egypt did win that first game. But I think it'd be a lot more closer of a game. I think Ghana is the best team in the tournament. They've been playing really, really well so far. Egypt have been consistent, really good in the backline, as I mentioned. I think Ghana's just better, though. More playmakers. The IUs, Kevin Prince Boateng. Egypt do have the ultimate difference maker in my eyes in Mohamed Salah, though. I feel like he's definitely the best player remaining in this tournament. Can definitely change games. We've seen what he's done at Roma so far this season. Definitely a really, really standout performer there on the right midfield for Roma. And they missed him maybe a little bit on Saturday. We'll talk about that in the next segment. But so I'm going to go with Egypt and Ghana, and I'll say Ghana. I think they're probably the best team left in the tournament. The final will be on Sunday, so next week on the show, we'll be updating you on AFCON, doing a review, standout performers, top performances, disappointments, and so on and so forth. So now, before we take the break, really quickly, we'll talk about some quick transfers. As you can see in the title, Dimitri Payet has finally got his move. Payet, a few weeks back, really kind of pouting, said that he would not play at West Ham anymore and that he wanted to move out. Marseille had 3 bids rejected for Payet, but West Ham finally caved in. It's a £25 million move, so about $31 million, to send Dimitri Payet back to Marseille, where he was before coming over to West Ham 2 years ago. So he's already familiar with the stadium, the city, a lot of the players. He was a great player there. Played more central midfield this year and last year for West Ham. He's been playing a lot on the left side. So interested to see where Marseille move Payet back into their starting 11, but he's already by far their best player. He's going to be probably tearing it up in Ligue 1 in the French league once he gets back accustomed to things. The Premier League is a much tougher league than the French league, and he already was dominating in that league. So it will be really interesting to see how Dimitri Payet does. I do feel bad for West Ham. Really, he was kind of their golden boy. They had parts of the stadium sort of caved in with Payet's name and the songs and everything, so that obviously will be taken down now. So I do feel really bad for West Ham in that regard, that Payet really wanted to leave on unhappy terms like that. But now they can finally move on. They've been playing well without him. They won a couple of games in a row now in the Premier League. Andy Carroll's been playing really well, and then Manuel Lanzini kind of filling in his spot there on the left side. So maybe they can move on and hopefully move on without him. They do have some more money in the bank, so they can try and add some more resources. But Dimitri Payet is gone. I am really going to miss him in the Premier League. Every single time he had the ball at his feet, he was a difference maker and just really caught everyone's attention, especially last year with all the free kicks he had going on and some of the sensational goals and everything he had. So we'll still have to see what he can do for the French international team. He'll still be playing on there, of course. But he's no longer a member of West Ham. He's back at Marseille, where he was a couple of years ago. Some more transfer rumors. The big one that's been surfacing all week long has been Antoine Griezmann, the French international and Atletico Madrid striker, possibly moving to Manchester United. Not so much in this January window, but maybe in the summer. Atletico have a history of selling their strikers. Think about who they have had as strikers. Diego Costa, he's gone. Sergio Aguero, he's gone. Radamel Falcao, he's gone. Carlos Tevez, he's gone. Now you could have Antoine Griezmann. He could be that next great striker at Atletico Madrid to bounce. He already has Paul Pogba at Manchester United, who's one of his best friends. Reports are that Pogba has been trying to convince Griezmann literally every single day to move to Manchester eventually. I think it'll happen. I would expect maybe in the summertime. Not so much in the January window. People don't really move in the January window that much. A lot of the big players don't for that instance. This year we've been kind of teased. We did have Julian Draxler move from Wolfsburg to PSG, and then Payet just moved from West Ham to Marseille. But for the most part, big-name guys don't really move in January. So I do think Griezmann is a real possibility to move in the summertime, though. It makes sense. They have a lot of money. It's Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world. You do have one of your best mates there in Paul Pogba already. So it does make some sense to me. We'll have to see what happens. Odiano Gallo, who plays at Watford, looks like he might be the next guy to move to China. Branislav Ivanovic from Chelsea is set to move to Zenit, which is in the Russian league. So a lot of guys from kind of like outcasts at their clubs right now in England are set to maybe move out. One guy going to China I'm not really a big fan of. And then really Daniel Sturridge at Liverpool, just really not fitting in there. I think he's really needed of a move. Maybe not so much in January because a lot of guys don't move, as I mentioned. But in the summertime, I really don't expect him to be a member of Liverpool going forward. That's going to be it for the first segment. We'll take a break. After the break, we're going to be talking about the results that have happened within the past week in soccer, including some big games all around the world. We'll take our break right here at the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back in, guys, to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. We're going to start off talking about games within La Liga from this weekend. A very, very big weekend for Real Madrid. The league leaders stretched their lead to 4 points atop the La Liga standings because they got a 3-0 victory over Real Sociedad, a goal from Mateo Kovacic, Alvaro Morata, as well as Cristiano Ronaldo over Real Sociedad. And they got some help on Sunday. Barcelona get a 90th minute goal from Luis Suarez to rescue 1 point away from Real Betis. They ended up in a 1-1 draw. And then Sevilla had Nicolas Pereira get sent off literally in the second minute of the game. So they played practically the whole 90 minutes against Espanyol with 10 men, and they suffered a really bad defeat. They lost 3-1. So now you look at the La Liga table. Real Madrid with a 4-point lead over Barcelona with a game in hand over Barcelona and Sevilla, that is. They both have 42 points. Atletico Madrid, they got a 0-0 draw in their game against Alaves. Really disappointing result. Atletico Madrid not playing well at the moment. They are 10 points back of Real and 6 of Sevilla and Barcelona with 36 points. Real Sociedad, who lost to Real Madrid at 35 points. Villarreal at 34. And Athletic Bilbao with 32. So a really big week for Real Madrid. And another big week here for Juventus. They got a 2-0 victory over Sassuolo and Roma, who have not given up a goal in all of 2017, give up 3 against Sampdoria and lose 3-2. Inter Milan did win their 7th game in a row against Pescara with a 3-0 victory over there. Chievo defeated Lazio 1-0, and AC Milan lose to Udinese 2-1. So when you're looking at the Serie A table, Juventus have a 4-point lead with a game in hand, a lot like Real Madrid, over Roma. Napoli in 3rd with 45 points. Inter climbed to 4th. They're at 42 points. They've won 7 games in a row, playing really good football as of right now. Lazio in 5th with 40 points. Atalanta in 6th with 39 points. And AC Milan, with their loss, dropped to 7th with 37 points. Big game in League One this weekend. It was Monaco against PSG. And yesterday, those two faced off, and they only tied. It was a 1-1 result. And Nice picked up a 3-1 victory over Jean Camp. So now we get a really tight top 3 within France. Monaco are top with their victory, and they are really high on goal differential over Nice by 20. So those two clubs are at 49. PSG at 46, Lyon with 37, Saint-Etienne, I'll say, they're in 5th with 33 points, and Marseille in 6th with 33 points as well. So now you're going to throw in Dimitri Payet into that midfield for Marseille. So I would imagine these should be able to climb up the table a lot quicker, at least jump a couple of few spots. You do have a big game against Lyon coming up. We'll preview that in the next segment. We'll switch over to talk about the Bundesliga really quickly before our break. I did mention we are on a little bit of a time cap, guys, so I do apologize, but I do got to try and get through these games a little quicker than I normally would have. So Bayern Munich pick up a 2-1 victory over Werder Bremen, and then RB Leipzig, they hand Hoffenheim their first loss of the season. RB Leipzig defeat Hoffenheim 2-1. A matchup between 2nd and 3rd in the Bundesliga. A very big victory here for RB Leipzig as they continue to impress and really be that Cinderella team in Europe this season. Still only 3 points behind Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich 45 points. RB Leipzig in 2nd with 42. And there's an absolutely huge drop-off there because Dortmund, they continue to let us down. They play against Mainz. It's a 1-1 draw. You had Eintracht. They've been playing really well. They got a 1-0 victory on Friday over Schalke. So Eintracht jump up to third in the Bundesliga table, which formerly was Hoffenheim's. So Eintracht, they're 10 points behind RB Leipzig and 13 points behind Bayern Munich. So the top two really sort of distancing themselves in the Bundesliga. In fourth is Borussia Dortmund. They have 31 points. And Hoffenheim also 31 points behind on goal differential in fifth. In sixth is Hertha Berlin. They have 30 points. And FC Cologne in seventh with 29 points. So that's going to be it for this segment. Again, I apologize. I have to do it pretty quickly. I am on a little bit of a time gap here. But that's going to be it for the recaps of this weekend. Big winners. The Premier League were off. They were on the FA Cup. So we'll talk about the Premier League next because they will have 2 match days within the next week. So we'll preview both those. But big winners for Juventus as well as Real Madrid in their 2 respective leagues. They edge the gap even more from some of their competitors and are starting to slowly pull away with the game in hand. That's really important that they have that game in hand because they can use that to their advantage. You can factor in another 3 points technically because they could get a victory and really just sort of make their lead even bigger. So it's very important that they have those game in hands, and they'll obviously have to catch up on them later in the season. But like I said, we'll take our second break of the show. After the break, we're going to be talking about upcoming games. We'll focus heavily on the Premier League because there is 2 match days within the next week. Some very important games coming up for league leaders Chelsea against Liverpool and Arsenal within the next week. We'll have to see. This week could be very big for Chelsea in the Premier League. If they come out with some really positive results, pick up a couple of victories, they could almost solidify this league, in my opinion. We'll talk about that and why after the break right here at the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back into the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. We will be ending the show, but before we do that, we will be talking about this upcoming week in the world of soccer. As I mentioned, on Sunday, we will be having the African Cup of Nations final, whether it be Ghana, Egypt, Burkina Faso, or the Cameroon. We will obviously talk about on Monday a recap of the tournament and the game, the final itself. So we'll save that. We already talked about that. Now we'll switch over to some of the leagues that these players in the AFCON are missing out on. One of them is Mohamed El Neni of Egypt and Arsenal. They will be taking on Watford on Tuesday, a very important game. Middlesbrough will battle West Brom. Swansea City will take on Southampton. Bournemouth will battle Crystal Palace. Sunderland will battle Tottenham. Burnley will battle Leicester. And the big game on Tuesday, Liverpool will be taking on Chelsea. Remember, Chelsea, they only have 3 losses this year in the league. One of them coming to Liverpool at the Stamford Bridge. So now they're going over to Anfield to take on Liverpool, who are really struggling right now without Sadio Mane. They've only won 1 game out of their last 8. They exited both League Cups in England within the past week, and they're really struggling. They are going to have Mane back because Senegal are out of AFCON. They bounced out on Saturday. But who knows if Mane is going to be ready to play just in a few days later against Chelsea. He's going to have some jet lag coming from Africa back to Europe. And I would expect him to really be on the bench. I don't think he'll start for Liverpool against Chelsea, but perhaps he can maybe come in the 60th minute if the game is still close, maybe make a difference. Really big, important game there. On Wednesday, there's 3 games. West Ham will take on Manchester City. Stoke City will battle Everton, and Manchester United will take on Hull City. And then, as I mentioned, they do have another match day on the weekend. Chelsea, another important game. This game will be at home at Stamford Bridge. They'll take on Arsenal. A very important game, number 1 and number 2, respectively, in the Premier League. If Chelsea can get a couple of wins against Liverpool and against Arsenal, they could look at themselves maybe being 11 points clear at the top, depending on how things play within these next 2 match days. They're already 8 points clear right now of Arsenal, but maybe if they drop some points to Liverpool and then drop some points to Arsenal, it could get a lot more interesting atop the Premier League. Because with the exception of Chelsea, the top 6 is very competitive. Number 2 versus number 6, only separated by 6 points right now. So those Champions League positions are still very much up for grabs in the Premier League. Watford will take on Burnley. Southampton will take on West Ham. Everton will battle Bournemouth. West Brom will take on Stoke City. Hull City will take on Liverpool. Crystal Palace will battle Sunderland. Tottenham will take on Middlesbrough. And on Sunday, a couple of games, Manchester City will take on Swansea City. And Leicester City will battle against Manchester United. Now we'll switch over to talk about La Liga. On Friday, Deportivo La Coruña will battle Real Betis. On Saturday, Malaga will take on Espanyol. Barcelona will take on Atletico Bilbao. Atletico Madrid will take on Leganes. Have to see if they can regain their form. Atletico Madrid really struggling this year in La Liga. Valencia will take on Eibar. On Sunday, Sevilla look to bounce back against Villarreal. Real Madrid will take on Celta Vigo, who actually bounced them in the Copa del Rey earlier this week. Sporting Gijon will take on Alaves. Real Sociedad will battle Osasuna. And Granada will take on Las Palmas. Very important games here in La Liga. Switching over to Serie A, on Wednesday, we have a couple of match days actually as well. So Wednesday, we have Pescara against Fiorentina. On Saturday is just one game, Bologna against Napoli. Sunday is the majority of the games, although there is one game on Tuesday which features Roma against Fiorentina. Have to see if Roma can continue their winning ways. Can bounce back from losing after their winning ways. So on Sunday, Milan will take on Sampdoria. Chiva will battle Udinese after their big victory. Genoa will take on Sassuolo. Pescara will take on Lazio, looking to regain their form as well. Torino will battle Empoli. Atalanta will take on Cagliari. Palermo will take on Crotone. And the big matchup on Sunday in Serie A, Inter Milan and their 7-game winning streak go in to take on Juventus, the league leaders. If Inter Milan can look at making 8 wins in a row, they're going to have to battle Juventus. Could be very, very interesting. Roma dropped some points last week. This could be a chance for them to gain their ground again, only go 1 point behind Juventus, because Inter Milan are hot. They're playing extremely well right now. Since they sacked Frank de Boer at manager, it looks like it's the best decision they made, because everything is going right for them. And I'm really happy to see Inter Milan returning to some of their earlier glory days from seasons past. It's definitely a good thing to look at. In Ligue 1 in France, Metz will battle Marseille on Friday. Not sure if Dimitri Payet will be ready to play for Marseille just in a few days from now. Have to monitor that. Big game in Ligue 1 again. Monaco, they withstood the test against PSG and got a 1-1 draw. Now they're going to be taking on second place Nice in this game. Montpellier will take on Bastia. Paris Saint-Germain look to take on Dijon. Jean-Camp will take on Caen. Lille will take on Lorient. Bordeaux will battle against Rennes. Saint-Etienne will take on Lyon. That's 4th and 5th respectively in Ligue 1. Toulouse will battle Angers. And Nantes will battle AS Nantes-Lorraine. So Monaco and Nice, 1st and 2nd, joint top on 49 points. Big matchup here. I think Monaco, with their goal scoring, how much goals they scored. They scored 65 goals, most in Europe. I think that might be the difference, just how much pressure they put on you, because they're so good going forward. Bernardo Silva having a great season over there on the right side for Monaco. Have to see if he and the rest of his mates can keep things going in Ligue 1. And then you look over talking about the Bundesliga on Friday. Hamburg will take on Bayer Leverkusen. On Saturday, the majority of the games, Bayern Munich to battle Schalke. Hertha Berlin will take on Ingolstadt. Borussia Mönchengladbach will take on SC Freiburg. Hoffenheim, after their first loss of the season to Leipzig, take on Mainz. FC Cologne will battle Wolfsburg. And speaking of RB Leipzig, another tough test. They're battling Borussia Dortmund. Dortmund have really struggled this year, but now they're going in to take on the media darlings of RB Leipzig, the Cinderellas of the year in the Bundesliga. Have to see if Leipzig can continue it going forward. They beat Hoffenheim to give them their first loss of the season last weekend, which is really, really big and important. But when they played Bayern Munich before the winter break, they kind of got destroyed. They got destroyed 3-0. Remember, Borussia Dortmund are the only team to beat Bayern Munich this season in the Bundesliga. So we'll have to see if RB Leipzig can continue their winning ways against a top team in Dortmund. I would imagine Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang will be back. He was on international duty with Gabon, but they were bounced earlier in the tournament. He's probably going to have a week and a half to get ready for this game. There's really no reason he should not play against RB Leipzig come Saturday. And then on Sunday, FC Osnabrück will battle Werder Bremen, and Eintracht will take on Darmstadt. So that's going to conclude the show for today, guys. As I mentioned, I do apologize. It is a much shorter show than I would have liked, but we were having some studio work done here, so I was not able to get in as early as I wanted to. So that's going to conclude it. As I said, my name is Ben Brown. I'd like to thank you for listening here at the Golden State Media Concept Soccer Podcast. We'll be back next week to talk all things soccer and more. Don't you guys go anywhere. Peace out. Have a good day and a good week.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.